Every head of the United States military once signed their name to a plan to attack American citizens and blame someone else for it. This isn't a theory you'll find on a forum. It's a real, declassified U.S. government document filed under a name most people have never heard, Operation Northwoods. You can read it yourself today. It sat hidden in a Pentagon archive for 35 years before anyone outside the government ever saw a page of it. Here's exactly what it says, why it stayed buried for so long, and why the one man who could stop it did. By 1962, Cuba had become the Kennedy administration's biggest problem. Castro had taken power, aligned with the Soviets, and the failed Bay of Pigs invasion had already embarrassed the White House once. The military wanted a second attempt, but invading another country without a clear justification was a political disaster waiting to happen. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed a solution. If Cuba wouldn't attack the United States could make it look like Cuba had. On March 13, 1962, General Lyman Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, formally submitted a document titled Justification for U.S. Military Intervention in Cuba to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. Inside were specific proposals. Fake a hijacked passenger plane and secretly land the real passengers somewhere else. Sink boats full of Cuban refugees on the open ocean. Stage a fabricated attack on the U.S. base at Guantanamo Bay, using American personnel disguised as Cuban forces. One proposal even suggested paying off one of Castro's own commanders to attack Guantanamo directly, so the violence would be real, but the blame would still land where the Pentagon wanted it. Every scenario was built for the same purpose: manufacture a Cuban attack on American soil or American forces, real enough to convince the public and the world, and use it to justify an invasion. This is what's known as a false flag operation. And Northwoods wasn't a vague concept passed around in a meeting. It was a signed, detailed operational proposal from the highest levels of the U.S. military. President Kennedy rejected it. He refused to authorize any version of the plan, and within the year, Lemnitzer was removed as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The documents didn't disappear. They were simply classified, filed away in Department of Defense archives, and left there for the next 3.5 decades. They stayed buried until 1997, when the JFK Assassination Records Review Board, created by Congress specifically to declassify records connected to the Kennedy assassination, released over 2,500 pages of Cold War-era military documents. Northwoods was among them. Even then, almost nobody noticed. It took until 2001, when journalist James Bamford featured it in a book on the National Security Agency, for Operation Northwoods to become widely known. A fully signed Pentagon plan to deceive the American public sat in public record for 4 years before anyone actually reported on it. Kennedy said no. That part matters because it means the system worked exactly the way it's supposed to. One person, with the authority to stop it, did. But the plan existed. It was written, reviewed, and formally submitted by the people running America's military. That part isn't up for debate. It's on the page, in the National Archives, for anyone to read. Next episode, we're opening a different file, one where nobody said no in time. If real declassified history, the kind with the signatures still readable, is what you're here for, subscribe. I've got more files to open.